All right, so today I wanted to talk a little bit more about the carbon tax. I'm sure most people have heard by now that the Liberal government is raising it to $170 a ton starting 2022. And I mean, the first thing I would point out too is that do people really believe that that's going to be the end of it? Like, of course it is. And I've seen the numbers that show that it would need to be at least, $300, $400 a ton before it would make the difference. And Brett Wilson makes a good point here saying if a mostly refundable carbon tax of $170 a ton will improve the planet, create jobs, make us all better off, then why not ramp it up even more? What about $10,000 per ton? So what if that wipes out a few families and businesses? The Liberal Party doesn't care. Now, the first thing I would point out before people want to make, so people can't make the stupid "you're biased" argument, in the Conservative Party's solution isn't much better. Like it really isn't much better. I would say it's slightly better, but the solution here is why not have no carbon tax, right? Why not have no, or only have penalties for companies that, you know, intentionally do bad things to the planet through either intentionality or negligence. Like if a company dumps waste just out in the open into a river or something when they could have disposed of it properly, yeah, they should probably get fined for that. But when it comes to everything else, no, there's no point of it. There's no point of a carbon tax. There's no data that shows that it works. And this is the funniest thing about the carbon tax is that BC has had one since I think it's 2008 or 2009, and the government's own numbers show that it doesn't reduce emissions. The government's own numbers show that it doesn't reduce emissions. Like, how many times do we have to repeat that? I don't get it. I don't get it. And the reason why I'm so pessimistic about the issue, and I would say it's a better way of putting it, is realistic, not pessimistic, in that it doesn't matter who's in power. Like if the liberals are in power, we know what's going to happen. If the conservatives are in power, they're going to do pretty much the same thing. We've heard, I've heard Aaron O'Toole talk and say, yeah, one of the big, I don't know exactly what his words were, but he said, oh well, one of the big hiccups to getting elected in the GTA is you got to have a good climate policy. Well, so the options are have integrity and actually do what's best for Canadians, or not have integrity and get more votes. That's what the options are in Canada right now. And that's why Wexit is so appealing to anybody with half a brain, if you ask me, in that Canada's not going to get any better. It's just going to keep going further and further off the deep end. And now, why do I say that? Like I say, because either the liberals stay in power, and we know what their position is. Their position is let's just keep increasing this until we can't anymore, or the conservatives get in, and the conservatives just do something that's it's not it may not be called the carbon tax, but it's pretty much the same thing. The clear solution here is let's just get rid of it. The government, and this is the thing that really bothers me about this whole situation, is that people think that by not wanting a carbon tax means that you are a climate denier. You're a climate denier, right? Now, that's irrelevant. That is completely irrelevant because we know that a carbon tax doesn't affect the emission. It doesn't. Um, so this is the thing that I need to point out to people. I don't know why Aaron O'Toole and these people don't bring that up either. I really don't get it. That you can think that climate change is going to kill us all tomorrow if we don't act, but not want a carbon tax. Because like I say, we know a carbon tax doesn't do anything. And the only way that it would do something, according to these numbers, you would have to increase it so significantly that the cost of living would be absolutely astounding. It would have to be, the cost of heating your house would have to be 10 times higher than right now. Your grocery bill, 10 times higher than right now. Do people honestly want that? So we can have a 1% effect on Canada's emissions? 10 times higher cost of living, at least when it comes to those things? Like Canada is like what, 1% of the world's emissions? Like the logic here is absolutely astounding. It absolutely astounds me just how stupid the average person is these days. Like it absolutely astounds me. There is no data that shows that any of this works. There's no data. But yet so many people support it. And I think the main reason is that people think that uh, if you think climate change is a big deal, you have to agree with the carbon tax. But that's not how reality works. There's no reality behind that. So, like I say, the solution here is very simple, and that we just get rid of the carbon tax. It's really not complicated. Like, it's not complicated. I don't understand why it has to be. The reason why is that that's just how government works these days, unfortunately. But this is going to be a growing problem. This is the other thing that really astounds me is that we have so many people these days that are struggling to get by, or that maybe they are getting by all right. But just imagine, like, if we got rid of the carbon tax, you'd have an extra what, $500 to $1,000, maybe even more once this starts to gets implemented. And they tell people, oh, most people get it back. Well, what is the point of it then? What is the point of it? Clearly, you're not getting all of it back, because there's no way government employees are working for free. So you're clearly not getting it all back. This is the reality behind the carbon tax. The reality behind the carbon tax and all these green energy schemes is the government wants another excuse to tax people, right? They can't convince people for the normal tax increases, right? They can't, because taxes are already so high in most areas. They can't convince people of that. So what do they have to do? They have to pretend like this whole climate change issue is a lot bigger than it actually is. The idea of climate change being a legitimate threat to humanity at this point is absolutely laughable. Now, again, I'm not going to get into it because I don't want this video to be too long, and I have plenty of other videos on why that's the case. Um, but the idea of climate change being a big issue in society is absolutely laughable. Now, the reason that they want these things is that they just want another excuse to tax people, right? The government is, I mean, especially right now, like we have a $500 billion in new debt this year. Well, they need another way to get revenue, right? They need another way to generate revenue. And I think another thing is that they know that this is going to create more poverty. They know that this is going to create more job losses. And what happens when there's more poverty and more job losses? Well, people vote left more. If you're thinking about it sheerly from a Machiavellian, all I care about is power, evil left-wing politicians perspective, this is exactly what they want. Like, this is exactly what they want, because the more people that need government to get by, the more left-wing votes you get. This is another thing that I bring up sometimes, and to the layman and to the average idiot out there. It's like, what did I say that didn't make any sense? The more people, the less people earn, the more poor people there is, the more people there is that lose their jobs, the more people that are going to want free stuff. I don't understand why that's complicated. I really don't. And like I pointed out too, I think the conservatives' position on a lot of this stuff is just as bad, right? It's just as bad. So the big problem here is that there's no good solution. I mean, I said that wrong. There's no good solution that's actually going to happen. There's a very obvious solution, like I say, is that we just get rid of the carbon tax. The problem is that's never going to happen, whether the conservatives are in power or the liberals. The conservatives may get rid of the carbon tax, but they're going to replace it with something that's pretty much the same. So there's no way that this stuff's ever going to go away. And this is the other thing too that people hear, is that this stuff's going to continue to go higher and higher and higher and higher. And that's the goal. That is the goal. The goal is to make life as unaffordable as humanly possible for people. That is the goal. So, like I say, the solution is very clear, that we get rid of this stuff. But again, the problem with that is that it's not going to happen. So, anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms. If you want to donate, you can do that as well. Again, I appreciate whatever support I can get. Like I say, check out those links. Have a good day and stay tuned for more.